Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to our usual Monday preview of Monday Night Raw. We are live on both YouTube and on Twitch, so thank you to everyone who has joined me so far. We now do have the little page at the beginning leading up to the show starting. I've also already got a couple of people saying hello, so as always, Manny says hello, Tom. Hello, Manny. Welcome. Glad to see you here. And someone says, hey, Tom. Welcome. Someone. I'm never going to get over that name. It's a really clever one. Eleanor is here on Twitch saying, hi, Tom. Welcome, Eleanor. Glad to see you pop up as well. All the notifications have gone out for Twitch. And of course, if you are watching on YouTube, please do remember to click like. That helps us grow and help people know that this show is happening. It'll pop up in their feed more often. If you're watching on Twitch, also, please remember to click follow. It's very, very helpful for me. So, one last one. Anand Vazwani says, hi, Tom. Welcome, Anand. Glad to see you drop in as well. So, I'll catch up on messages as we go. Tonight is WWE Raw. I will be hosting, as you would expect, my usual watch party over on Twitch, but there's not that much been announced so far for Raw, but there has been definitely one really big match announced featuring a lot of people. Before that, a brief bit of news about NXT yesterday, and it regards Eli Drake, or LA Knight as he is known now. Anyone who isn't already aware, Eli Drake debuted as LA Knight last night on NXT. And it must have been a very short discussion phase, as Triple H alluded to in the post show, because as recently as January, as in last month, 2 weeks and a bit ago, Eli Drake was looking to get independent bookings. So at that point, he didn't expect to be under WWE contract. So within the last month or so, the whole process has undergone, and Eli Drake got his contract. Bit of news there for you. There will be more news coming later on in future shows and etc. But we're going to take this one nice and slow. Take our time with it. Manny says Raw hopefully will be good. Hopefully so. Last week's Raw I felt was actually pretty good. Ed's here saying hello everyone, and hello Ed as well. Michael's here saying hi Tom. Corey as well. Hi Tom. These are all people who joined in the watch along yesterday and enjoyed the show with us. And as for my take on Adam Cole's heel turn, well, I don't think Adam Cole ever really turned face. He just had a bigger heel around him. And that, I feel, is really what works for Adam Cole in this particular environment. He's able to just go back to what he was doing, which is the heel that he was. He only recently went face-ish against Pat McAfee, but I don't think he ever formally became a face. It's a wonderful thing of Adam Cole, whereas he doesn't need to be face or heel. But it'll be interesting to see how much time he spends on Twitch now that he has turned heel, because I tell you what, a lot of people are going to be asking him to explain himself. One person I have followed recently is Aiden English. He has a very interesting Twitch channel, and he's very open when it comes to questions about WWE. I learned a lot about Vince McMahon from him. Manny says PW Insider has reported that NXT has signed 24 new wrestlers. Yep, we heard a lot of names last night. There are definitely more coming, and a lot of independent names of people we maybe haven't heard of. They need the new class to come through. Essentially, the idea is that they'll release people who haven't really trained and developed as they expected, and a few people will be added to the roster. It says he can't wait for LA Knight versus Kyle O'Reilly or Roderick Strong. Certainly will be interesting. I think Roderick Strong will be first in line for Eli Drake. But as with everything in NXT, you usually start near the bottom and then build up. Eli Drake might be skipping a couple of steps. And Eleanor says, with the reports of Taya Valkyrie getting signed by WWE, do you think she should skip NXT and go straight to the main roster? Personally, I do. She clearly has a lot of experience, but it's important to spend at least a little bit of time in NXT learning the way that the WWE does things. If you've never worked for the WWE, there are things that they do that no other company does, and it's really simple things. For example, New Japan's 3 count is a 4 count. They go 1, 2, 3 every single time. So you can kick out at 3 and the 3 hasn't landed. In WWE, if you do that, it's 1, 2, 3, you've lost the match. You kicked out after the count. So you need to be aware of that. Also, the clothesline thing. If someone's going to clothesline you, they do that. Just to let you know. So you hear it while you're running past. They don't do that in other companies either. Manny said, Bow Wow said he's going to start training with Rikishi soon at Rikishi's school. That would be cool. It definitely would. And Bow Wow put a tweet out, which I'm actually going to read because I quoted it for a reason as well.
He said, a lot of the wrestlers who are coming for me on Twitter should be happy I'm going back and forth. Most have like 70k followers. I'm actually helping you become a bigger name. $1 Million Man laugh. How are you on Raw with 50k followers? Something is not adding up. Yeah, that's very true. But Bow Wow, of course, has 3 million followers, and that means he is making people a bigger name simply by association with them. That's a really simple thing that really does stand true the test of time. So if he's able to make something of himself in a wrestling capacity, I'm interested. And Anand says there were reports of Cross versus Balor at WrestleMania, so Balor versus Cole can be used as a filler feud, or can we see a triple threat between them at Mania? I don't think Adam Cole versus Finn Balor is in the future. I think they are done with that. I think the fact that Adam Cole hit Kyle O'Reilly shows where they're going with this, and I think Cross will still be involved with Balor around Mania time, if not at WrestleMania, then wherever TakeOver is nearest WrestleMania. It depends. They've got 2 nights of card, and they've got a lot of matches coming. I'm not sure they're going to be putting too many NXT matches on there, but if they do, that's the one to do. Right, before I jump into the full preview, as per usual, just a bit of information about what's going on with these shows. There are only going to be 3 more YouTube live shows. This counts for one of them. SmackDown on Friday preview will be the second, and the Elimination Chamber watch along will be the third. If you haven't already followed on Twitch, please remember to do so. That will mean that you still get all of this content and more in a slightly higher quality, with a few additional props, for example, alerts when I get a new follower and the like. Also, I have the ability over on Twitch, essentially, to have a bit more customization, do a bit more gaming content, and just do more. So please remember to jump over if you haven't. If you are watching on YouTube, please do click like. That helps me grow. That helps people realize that I do these shows. You will still be getting review content and all the like over there. Ed says Cross versus Escobar this week on NXT will tell a lot. Yes, it will. If Karrion Kross is winning a Cruiserweight Championship, it might be the case that he's not going for the NXT title. Instead, we might get Balor versus Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly. I'll take it. Adam Pete Dunne. Why not? It'll be great. Owen says, hi, Tom. Did you enjoy TakeOver? I really did. It was a really very good show. I'm glad I got talked into, Ed, this is on you, got talked into the watch-along. The watch-along shows have been really successful, like really successful, and I'm really enjoying them. It's really helping me relax because on these shows, I at no point do I have to fill time. I'm reading from a preview. I'm reading for a little script that I've prepared in advance, and I've got people constantly coming back and forth, like you guys, who it's working for me. You know, it's working. Whereas with the watch-alongs, there's a bit of dead space that I have a duty to fill. I want to be entertaining, but we're watching wrestling. TakeOver in particular, I didn't talk too much over the matches because we had great matches. But in between the matches, we got a lot of talking done. Whereas on Raw, for example, during commercial breaks, we do more talking. So they're a lot of fun. The TakeOver itself gave me a lot to talk about. There was great wrestling top to bottom, and it was nice and compact. So I didn't feel the need to immediately pass out afterwards, much like I do on Raw, and probably will tonight. Alana says, what did you think of Seth Rollins' promo on SmackDown? I personally wish he was in the title picture, but I have no doubt Seth versus Cesaro will be a good match. For anyone who follows me on Twitter, I have just posted something about Cesaro, saying that it's long past time for WWE Cesaro to get a shot at the Universal Championship. 5 other men or not, it's Cesaro that I want to see throwing uppercuts at Roman. Please, if you do follow me on Twitter, click like, click retweet, whatever works for you on that tweet to help me get my name out there as well. I think Seth Rollins versus Cesaro is going to be extremely good. I think the Seth Rollins promo wasn't as strong as it could have been. I think essentially he was just coming in and saying business as usual, but it does set him up in direct opposition to Roman Reigns because they are very similar characters. Someone says, do you think there could be a chance that Drew loses the title Elimination Chamber? It's not impossible, but I'd say it's very, very unlikely. And if it happens, it's probably to The Miz, and then he's taking it from The Miz in a one-on-one match at Fastlane. That's what I see. I don't think Drew has any chance of really losing it, unless the idea is to pivot to Orton and have the championship match be Randy Orton and The Fiend. I'd rather see it on Drew McIntyre, personally. As regards
Karrion Kross winning the Cruiserweight Championship. It says Kross is slightly too large unless they make it no limits, and they definitely won't. And be careful letting me talk you into things. Don't you worry, sir. There will definitely be limits, but you've made some really good suggestions so far. And to be honest, quite a lot of my growth is down to support that you've given me. So cheers, sir. Matt Hendricks has made it. Welcome, Matt. Glad to see you. Also, someone who joined me at last night's watch along. Michael says Triple H mentioned that a secondary belt could be introduced for the women in NXT. As of now, I think they need a bigger roster, but it could definitely work. What do you think? Personally, I think the right title to introduce would be a tag title, a women's tag title purely for NXT, or at least get the women of NXT more involved in the women's tag division as it is at the moment. For example, there aren't many women's tag teams on SmackDown, so instead of going to SmackDown constantly, let's get some visits from the tag team champions down in NXT. Why not? I think that would definitely be worth doing. In addition, if they do have a secondary title, they do have quite a large women's division now. Don't look further than Candice LeRae as the first champion. I think she'd be absolutely perfect. Manny Santos says, I think we see Lana and Naomi versus Shayna and Nia at Chamber. Personally, I don't. I think the Chamber matches are going to be quite long. We know as well that we're going to see Lacey Evans against Asuka, and then possibly maybe Street Profits versus Ziggler and Rude. We're going to see enough matches for me, because I think their Chamber matches will be 50 minutes to an hour each. So if they wanted to keep it nice and compact for 3 hours, I don't think we're going to see the women's tag team titles defended on that show. They do also have to fill Fastlane, which is only 2, maybe 3 weeks afterwards. So that's something they need to keep in mind as well. And Ambazwani says, do you think that attack from Cole will be a setup where we get a fatal 4-way or a triple threat match between Cole, Balor and or Riley Dunn, and we may see Cole become champion? I don't think Adam Cole's going to be in the championship picture again for a little while, at least a few months, personally. I think he might be in a match for it, but I don't think he'll be a champion for a while. I think it's time for him to give back a little bit, and I think this is what this feud with Kyle O'Reilly is all about. But I think it could very well be a matchup for basically everyone at the top level. If we're going to have this match at WrestleMania, instead of making it Finn Balor versus Karrion Kross, let's throw in Adam Cole. Let's throw in Kyle O'Reilly. Let's maybe throw in Pete Dunne. Let's just go crazy. Let's just go crazy. And Eleanor Line says, can you see Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai appearing on Raw to confront Shayna and Nia? I'd like it. I don't necessarily see it, but I'd like it. I think having won the opportunity, Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez should be chasing it. Should be literally there every week saying, I want my opportunity. That for me could be extremely exciting. Matt said WWE posted a random triple threat match with Bray as the WWE champion. I'm guessing this is against AJ and John Cena 6 days before the Elimination Chamber, which Orton is in. Coincidence? I think not. I think the fact that Bray Wyatt won the title, that particular championship, at Elimination Chamber, and that match took place the days after, I think 2 days after the Elimination Chamber when he first won it, if it was the match I'm thinking of, I think that's quite telling. I've said for a little while now, I believe we're going to see Bray Wyatt at the Elimination Chamber. He will wrestle again at WrestleMania. Matt also says Raquel and Dakota will probably take it off a face team. Not necessarily. If there is a multi-team match, for example, 3 teams, if we have those two versus Shayna and Nia versus Naomi and Lana, they certainly could win it that way. And yes, take it off a heel team, but by pinning a face team. That's a wonderful lot of questions that we got to start with. I'm really grateful to everyone who asks questions, everyone who jumps in, everyone who's over on YouTube and Facebook. If you're not Facebook, I'm not on Facebook and Twitch. If you are watching on YouTube, please do remember to click like. That is a huge benefit to me personally, really helps my channel grow. And of course, if you are watching on Twitch, please do remember to click follow so you get all of the content that I do. It is free to follow and you just get an extra notification letting you know what is going on. Corey MLB says, I think they can push Gonzalez a lot, and then by the end of the year, she could be on the main roster and maybe get the Raw Women's Championship or SmackDown Women's Championship. I think she, unfortunately, is in a queue, and that queue features Rhea Ripley at the moment. So I would say she's definitely behind Rhea Ripley in that list. I think Raquel Gonzalez is in a great position in NXT in that she is the dominant physical force, especially now that Rhea Ripley is not there. However, once you get to the main roster, she doesn't look that big compared to a Charlotte Flair. She doesn't look that big compared to a Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans actually being bigger physically than Charlotte Flair at the moment. She doesn't look that big compared to a Nia Jax, a Shayna Baszler. So for now, I'd like to keep her in NXT, have her dominate everyone, eventually have some sort of breakup. But I think if she's in the tag team division, that's perfect because she can be on the main roster without going up against people who make her seem smaller. It's like when Omos was next to Braun Strowman, and Omos was bigger than Braun Strowman. That wasn't a great look for Braun Strowman, who is the monster, the giant. So they're always careful with stuff like this. Matt says, something tells me Orton versus Fiend for the title at Mania come full circle. Randy Orton does want to lose a big match to Bray Wyatt. He genuinely does. Randy Orton, to my knowledge, feels guilty about what happened last time they were in a championship match at WrestleMania. It did a lot of damage to Bray Wyatt, and we lost him after that. So we'll see how that goes. Ultimately, it's still up to the WWE. Riffing says, hi, welcome, Riffing. Glad to see you popping in. Anand Vaswani says, as Roman said, he will defend his title against the winner of the Elimination Chamber match on the same night. Do you think they will postpone this match till Fastlane or end that match in a controversial way? No, personally, I think we will open with the Raw Elimination Chamber with Drew McIntyre standing tall, and I think we will essentially close with that match as a main event. Or it could be the other way around, but I'm confident Roman will challenge the winner of the Elimination Chamber seconds after the Elimination Chamber is finished. Whoever wins, let's say, for example, it's Daniel Bryan. You're going to hear 4 seconds of Daniel Bryan's theme, and then you'll hear Roman Reigns' theme, and he'll come down and put whoever it is down with it. As I've said over on Twitter, I have mentioned who I think should be winning this and who I want to win this, and that is Cesaro. I'm trying to push that tweet, so if you can, please do remember to jump over. Matt says the SmackDown Chamber match will probably open a pay-per-view. If it does, that'll be a good clean way to wipe it out, as it were, and then main event with Drew McIntyre, but it's going to be one chamber at one end, one chamber at the other. Riffing says, I think that Twitter is the best social media for wrestling fans. I think that depends. It depends how you define social media, for one thing, because, for example, TikTok is social media, and that seems much more friendly than Twitter. Personally, I have encountered a lot of morons, idiots, offensive a-holes on Twitter. So while I like Twitter and it's a good way to connect to wrestlers, I also have had a lot of people making up lies about me on Twitter, which is very hard to get out of when people are willing to believe it. So I'll say Twitter's the best. I'm liking Twitch. Matt says, I don't think the Universal title needs to main event the Chamber. It absolutely doesn't. But to be fair, pretty much anything could main event the Chamber. It depends how they go storyline-wise. Essentially, the big story moment will be the main event. And to be fair, as I've in fact mentioned last week during this show, I think it's worth pointing out, I'm pretty sure Bray Wyatt, if he appears as the Fiend, we should put the Raw Elimination Chamber on last because that's the big moment. I'm confident they booked that moment before they booked the Chamber matches, which means that, yeah, they're going to focus entirely on that. So probably, yeah. Corey says, I think Roman Reigns will be champion until SummerSlam. I agree. I think even if he faces Edge, he will defeat him at WrestleMania. That says, because if Roman is main eventing Mania, fair point. I think Drew should main event the Chamber if he's losing the title or main event Fastlane. That's fair. And I think that's definitely worth pointing out. Pardon me. Since Roman Reigns returned, Drew McIntyre's main events at pay-per-views have been drastically diminished. Drastically. So it's worth giving him that moment. It says Twitter can be incredibly toxic. Yes, it can. Twitter is why wrestling fans can't have nice things. Yeah, if you guys have been watching on YouTube the abuse and harassment video, I know I pushed this quite strongly, but I'm really proud of the video, and it's done very, very well. Everyone seems to have really enjoyed it, and it's one of my most successful videos for like watch time and click-through rate. So people who aren't following me see it and still watch it and still enjoy it. So if you've been watching that, I did highlight a lot of things that have been happening on Twitter, which are real negatives. Real negatives. Eleanor says, I'm assuming Cesaro will win the Chamber, sadly lose to Reigns, and then probably face Rollins at Fastlane. That's exactly what I see happening as well. Matt says, I feel bad for Shinsuke Nakamura, who wasn't even supposed to get that push in the gauntlet. I'm not entirely sure he wasn't supposed to get that push. They've literally changed his music, but they certainly haven't followed it up. Michael agrees with Ed. Says Twitter is also the place where people harass wrestlers like Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss, unfortunately, has been dealing with harassment for a long time. A long time. Same with Sasha Banks. Same with Sonya Deville. Same with a lot of people. It's not cool. It's not fun. Elena says, I like Twitter, but it can be hugely toxic. However, Instagram fans can be really toxic as well, but Twitter fans are really creepy and just disgusting. I obviously have a different experience. Everyone has a different experience of social media. I haven't encountered much that I would say creepy towards me, but I've encountered a lot of creepy towards other people. It's a real shame. As regards to main event, Point Matt says, sure, Drew main evented Hell in a Cell and Survivor Series as champion, but still, to be fair, at Survivor Series, it was both champions main evented, so it's hard to quantify there. But you are right. That's since October, so October, November. 4 months, 2 main events. It's not bad. It's not bad. Riffing says, why has the WWE not brought Batista back like the other legends? Because Batista doesn't want to come back. For several years, since his last 6-month run that he did back in 2014, Batista said he would only come back for one storyline and one match. The WWE eventually put in the phone call and said, we will give you that storyline, we will give you that one match. That is the match that he had with Triple H. That is a storyline that he had with Triple H. He scripted it, which is why it was a little bit confusing compared to most storylines. And from there, he is completely retired. He has no interest in coming back. Anand says, can we see Keith Lee versus Lashley at Mania for the US Championship? I certainly can. I think for now they will continue like the triple threat feud involving Riddle till Fastlane maybe, and then Lee versus Lashley can be built. I think we're going to get this match at the Elimination Chamber, the triple threat. I think Riddle will be taking the pin, and I think that will lead to Keith Lee versus Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania, with Keith Lee winning the United States Championship, and hopefully that beginning a proper push for him. Matt says 1 hour of Raw will be headed up by the Gauntlet. We'll wait and see on that one. I think it's going to be a long match. Nakamura should be in the chamber, not Baron Corbin. You need heels in the chamber. You need someone like Baron Corbin who's naturally hateable to put other people over. You need heels in the chamber. Nakamura, I think, missed out, and that's a shame. Matt also says, I missed that amazing ending to Takeover last night since I had to leave. Yeah, it's a shame you weren't there for it, but it was a very good show. I hope you enjoyed the end to it. Manny says, I don't think we'll see Bad Bunny this week since Miz is in the chamber. I agree. I think that may also mean we don't see a Damian Priest beyond, for example, a backstage promo. Or maybe they'll be with Angel Garza again, but Miz is definitely involved in the Gauntlet match, and I think the focus is going to be on building to Elimination Chamber. Damian Priest is not currently booked for Elimination Chamber, so I think at most we'll see a promo from him. Riffing says, why can't Batista make guest appearances? Because he doesn't want to. He has no interest in doing that. Riffing asks also, are you taller than Daniel Bryan? How tall is Daniel Bryan? I'm 5'10". Let's see. How tall is Daniel Bryan? We'll see if we can get his actual height and not his book height. How tall? I should make a YouTube video on this. People are always searching this stuff. How tall is Daniel Bryan? Let's have a look. He is 5'10". I'm the exact same height as Daniel Bryan. That's my claim to fame right there. Matt says Priest might have a squash match, though. It would be a good way to do it. I think this is why they pivoted him to Angel Garza. They can like have a match again, but keep it separate. Ooh, okay, right. So we've been going for nearly half an hour, and I haven't even got to the preview yet. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for the company and for people jumping in. There's constant growth going on for me at the moment. It's not world beating. Like I'm not growing at 5,000 new followers a day, but it's going really, really well, and I'm really happy that you guys are enjoying the content that I'm making here. Ultimately, without you guys, there's no Becky Lynch show. Anand says, do you think we'll see Fiend versus Goldberg at next Mania or Mega event, considering Fiend's story is coming full circle against Cena and certainly against Orton at Mania? I think the Fiend will want to get his revenge at Goldberg, and I think Goldberg will never be willing to step into that ring again. Corey says, I agree with you with the chamber. I think they will start with the Raw chamber. McIntyre will still be champion, but at the end of the chamber, The Miz will confront McIntyre and then try to cash it. Then McIntyre super kicks him, and then those two will have a match. A McIntyre super kick. Interesting. At Fastlane, and Edge will face The Miz at Fastlane, and then Edge will destroy The Miz at WrestleMania. That's a lot of plan there, Corey. Personally, I don't think The Miz is going to successfully cash in, and I don't think Edge is going to wrestle before WrestleMania.
Ed pointing out a few things that are coming for Twitch. Everyone on Twitch has seen that. Essentially, just reminding people, we will be doing a live watch along on Twitch tonight. I start maybe 10 minutes before the show begins. Those have been our busiest sections, our busiest parts. So even if you're not planning to stay for the watch along, jump in, join me, say hi. I always really appreciate that. Let's get to our preview. I'm going to get rid of the tab saying how tall is Daniel Bryan. We learned something today. And if you missed the Eli Drake news, please feel free to watch back. You can just rewind once we've finished here. So, Raw preview. As we've been talking about, the big headline essentially is going to be really, really simple. It's going to be the gauntlet match. That's going to be the top moment for anyone in this particular Raw. The whole point right now is building towards the Elimination Chamber. WWE are not confident that they have built adequately so far, which is why everything is being thrown at the wall right now. We will see, for example, some sort of confrontation between Lacey Evans and Asuka, because despite everything going on with Flair and Evans and Asuka have not really been involved with each other at all. We will also be seeing more between Bobby Lashley, Matt Riddle, and Keith Lee. Expectation is that we are going to see a promo, some sort of talk down. Bobby Lashley will probably be made once again to look dominant at the end of it, but Keith Lee will not be a slouch. Keith Lee will be standing tall in some capacity. It depends whether he can keep up with Bobby Lashley and what Bobby Lashley delivers. It's also worth pointing out, by the way, for my watch-alongs, because I'm only on one site, that being on Twitch, I can use Streamlabs and I'm high quality, because I'm looking at myself right now and I'm not the highest quality. I don't mind being non-HD because, you know, look at this face. If it was HD, you'd be horrified. We all know that. But, you know, it's slightly high quality and that's something to keep an eye on. But yeah, looking back at the preview thing. So it's a gauntlet match. The expectation should be that Drew McIntyre will be the first person in. That makes the most sense to me. The story is going to be McIntyre versus Sheamus. We are still likely to see that match one-on-one at Fastlane, with Sheamus getting this moment, but not really getting his championship. I'm expecting that for Sheamus and McIntyre at Fastlane, but for tonight, McIntyre, I think, will go in first, and I think what we're going to see is The Miz late on teasing a cash-in on an exhausted Drew McIntyre. So I think McIntyre is probably going to come out of this looking pretty good, but I think he will not last the whole way. I think the advantage at the end will go to The Miz, who will come in last. Then, having beaten McIntyre once, he will attempt to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase and fail at that. But I don't think he'll lose the briefcase in doing so. I kind of wish he would, but I don't think he would. When it comes to what happens for the rest of the competitors, Randy Orton, I feel, will be distracted, shall we say. I think we're going to see Alexa Bliss again because this is a new filming batch. So I think we're going to see Alexa Bliss again as well. Going forwards from there are a number of other things that are likely to happen on Raw. As I said, I expect to see some sort of confrontation involving Asuka and Lacey Evans. Charlotte Flair, however, will not be uninvolved herself. So I suspect it's possible we're going to see a tag match, Asuka and Charlotte Flair against Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce. It'd be nice to see Peyton Royce back at the very least. We still have some sort of match coming for Naomi and Lana. That is what I expect we're going to see when it comes to Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. But I would really enjoy it if we did see Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez as well. That's something that I think needs to be happening and pushing. We need to find out when this match is going to be. I don't think it will be at the Elimination Chamber, but they will do something to continue this as well. And yes, I think they will also give us another moment focused on Nia Jax's butthole. I'm not happy about it, but I think it's happening. Let's catch up on the chat, shall we? Matt says there really isn't much about Raw tonight other than Miz TV and the Gauntlet. That is correct. They are really trying to focus on their events for Elimination Chamber. Anand says, do you think Miz can cash in WrestleMania similar to Rollins' cash in at WrestleMania 31? I think he certainly can, and that would be a very dumb thing to do. I just don't think he's taking it. Matt says, I think the loser of the Gauntlet should start the chamber. Well, then only one person will be in a pod because it's a Gauntlet match and 5 people going to lose.
the winner, I think, will get the advantage and come in last. The Miz is the opportunist in this particular instance, so for me, that's him. Manny says he thinks Evans is going to win on Sunday. I will ask the rest of the chat, who do you think is going to win on Sunday between Asuka and Lacey Evans? I don't think Evans stands much of a chance here. I think Asuka will be retaining, and after that, we'll find out who she's going to face at WrestleMania. I don't see Evans winning, even though I know a lot of people are a little bit scared that that is going to happen, thinking that we're going to see Evans versus Charlotte at WrestleMania. I don't think that's the case. I don't think Lacey Evans has been pushed enough that the WWE believe she's worth putting in that particular position. Corey over on Twitch says, I think we gained Randy Orton versus The Fiend at WrestleMania. I think we are definitely going to see that as well. The amount of time it's taking The Fiend to come back, it makes a lot of sense to me that we are going to see Randy Orton versus The Fiend. And that's a high-profile match. Randy Orton, obviously, is one of the class of 2002. He's a huge draw, and that helps put over The Fiend. The fact that we've seen The Fiend against Randy Orton after last year against John Cena, people are really behind this guy. Mike says, hi, Tomahawk. You're eventually going to run out of names, sir. It's a good gimmick to have, but you're eventually going to run out of names. Welcome, Mags. Glad to see you joining us. Anan says, I think they could have turned Sheamus at Elimination Chamber and he could have become champion, thereby carrying the feud in full-fledged way till Mania. Would have been a great storyline. I'm not sure Sheamus was going to be the one turning heel. I believe Keith Lee was going to be the one turning heel, but then he became unavailable and they just needed something for Drew McIntyre to do. Drew McIntyre as well undoubtedly asked to work with Sheamus. Drew McIntyre has had a lot of say in the people that he competes against. He has asked for a number of people to wrestle against him, to challenge for the championship. That included, for example, Bobby Lashley. We are going to see quite a bit of this. Bertrice Talks Wrestling says, hello, Tom. Welcome, Bertrice. Glad to see you joining us here. Michael says, Asuka has to win, and just about this. Corey says, Asuka. Ed says, Asuka will win. The Flair needs a Mania adversary. Certainly could happen. And Eleanor says, I love Charlotte, but really hope they don't do Evans versus Flair at Mania. I don't think they will, but potentially we may see a triple threat. Bertrice also asks, how are you? Things are going pretty well for me, Bertrice. So thank you very much for asking. The watch-alongs are doing really very good. Twitch is growing. It's slowed down a little bit, but it's still growing. I'll be monetizing within the week. So really quite promising. Also, I've been conducting a few interviews of wrestlers, indie wrestlers that you are going to see appearing sooner rather than later on a different YouTube channel. I will be advertising this Twitch and my watch-alongs by doing preview shows before my watch-alongs on that channel. More of that information will be coming shortly. Matt says, I mean, the loser of the last part of the gauntlet. Let's say Sheamus wins the gauntlet. The person he beats to earn entering the chamber last should start the chamber is what I mean. And that's a bit unfair on the gauntlet concept, but to be fair, the gauntlet concept is already massively unfair. Corey says, so what do you think is going to happen at the chamber matches? For the Raw Elimination Chamber, I think Drew McIntyre will retain, and I think we will finish on Drew McIntyre against Randy Orton, and The Fiend will somehow be involved and take Randy Orton out of the affair, leading to Randy Orton versus The Fiend at WrestleMania, when The Fiend will actually return in ring. I think Drew McIntyre is a secondary player in his own Elimination Chamber title defense, and I think that's why he has to be in the chamber, whereby Roman hasn't. For the SmackDown Men's Chamber, I think we're going to see some new feuds. I think potentially this is leading towards Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn again, which I have no issue with a repeat of. I'd like to see that. And potentially as well, Baron Corbin could be involved in some capacity with Daniel Bryan. That's a feud that could definitely work, even though we'll have to wait and see. But Baron Corbin has been teased as having a celebrity opponent for WrestleMania. Keep your ear to the ground on that one. But I think Cesaro will come out the winner there. And I think Roman Reigns will cash in his opportunity immediately to take on Cesaro. We'll hear like maybe 4 seconds of Cesaro's theme before we hear Roman's theme. He will walk down, take advantage, and take the win quite easily. Ooh. And Matt thinks that Drew is going to lose on Sunday so that we will get Randy Orton versus The Fiend. Certainly could happen. I think it's disappointing for Drew McIntyre if that happened. He's carried Raw for a year, and to lose the title right at the end for someone else would be disconcerting. But I think it's certainly possible. I think also if Randy Orton wins the title, Edge would be very, very dumb not to cash in there. Ed says, I have an inkling of a feeling that Sheamus will win the Chamber, leading to Sheamus and Drew at Mania for Drew's real-life fan anointment. Certainly could do. That would make sense. There are a number of possibilities, and I think the most exciting ones all come at the at the Raw Elimination Chamber. There's a couple of people who could come out the winner and would have interesting storylines as a result. I just don't think it's going to be Jeff Hardy. Bless him. Matt says, Sammy turns face and he and KO go after the tag titles. That hasn't happened with KO and Sammy yet. It hasn't, and it's a shame. I'd like to see them as a full-fledged tag team for a little bit longer. Pardon me. It was good when they did it, and I'd like to see it continue. Bertrice talks wrestling, says, well, tonight Randy's about to hit an RKO. Let's go off and Alexa has a gift for him, and it's a burnt Fiend mask. Then Alexa takes him out. I don't think Randy Orton is going to let Alexa Bliss take him out. I don't think that they're going to let that happen, but I think there'll be some sort of distraction. I think it will be the return of the Fiend personally, but Alexa Bliss acting as envoy could work as well. Matt says Drew did confirm he does not want to face the Fiend as a WWE champion. I do have to clarify that was in an interview with Sportskeeda, where Drew said he doesn't want to defend the WWE championship in a cinematic match. That is why he said he doesn't want to face the Fiend. He said he doesn't want a cinematic match. He's not against facing the Fiend. Manny Santos says the elimination chamber card doesn't look bad considering they just started making it. I know, right? They just got their heads down and focused, and it definitely started working. For anyone over on YouTube watching this, please do remember to click like on the video. That's a huge help to me in my personal growth on that channel. If you're watching on Twitch, please do remember to click follow. We have Big Reg 74035 who followed 11 minutes ago. Thank you very much, Big Reg. I'm very appreciative of everyone who follows. Feel free to say hi, feel free to ask questions, and thank you very much for joining us there. Corey says, yep, I agree with you. The SmackDown matches I have, it's the feeling that Edge is going to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Don't know why, I just have a feeling. That seems to be the favorite at the moment. I don't think Edge is winning if that's the case. And Corey says, I just feel like they're going to push Edge. They're already pushing Edge, to be fair. He's everywhere. Matt Hendricks says, you say that he'll let Bliss take him out with a fireball. Different sort of takeout. I don't think he'll let her take him out in a wrestling capacity. But the fireball is slightly different. Bertree said, thoughts on Eli Drake on NXT. I did say earlier, but I'll reiterate here. A bit of news on the Eli Drake signing. Eli Drake was trying to get bookings on the independent scene as recently as January. So last month, just over a couple of weeks ago. It was a very quick signing, and it looks like the WWE are trying to replenish their ranks, ready for something to happen. Keep an eye on this one. But I think it's very telling that they started signing people right after they announced their quarterly earnings. They do this. And Matt says, I think we don't see Rhea Ripley till next week on Raw. Seems so now. Now that they are trying to push to Elimination Chamber, it makes sense that if she's not going to have a match on that card, Rhea Ripley would not appear. I think once Bianca Belair formally says, I am challenging Sasha Banks, then we will see Rhea Ripley, and then she will start coming for Asuka. That's what I personally think will happen. Let's see if there's anything else in the Raw preview to put some attention into. I've spoken about that. I've spoken about that. Spoken about that. The New Day defeated Retribution last week. We could see a continuation of this. It sounds like it'd be a pre-show match if they do that, because ultimately Retribution can rotate. And the whole point is we have to eventually see the New Day get a win over Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali is the big one and well worth focusing on. So I think that's where they're going with that. It's been a while since we've seen Kofi. It's good to have him back. Logically, at this point, Kofi against Mustafa Ali is where we're heading, particularly as regards Mustafa Ali cutting a promo, blaming Kofi Kingston for taking away his WrestleMania moment. As Ed says, Xavier Woods is still trying to get a match with Reckoning. I don't know if they're going to give it to him, but I think if they do, it'll be very similar to the recent Sasha Banks versus Reginald match, where there was a lot of story and not a lot of action. Not a lot of physicality, I should say.
Matt says, something tells me Rhea will do something with Alexa Bliss. After the Royal Rumble, a lot of people thought that would be a lot of fun. And Matt says, not sure why people on Twitter still think a takeover is happening Mania weekend. Because there's always a takeover happening Mania weekend. It just hasn't been recently. So people get used to it. It's like muscle memory when you play guitar. Anything left to discuss? Do we expect to see Edge and Bianca Belair tonight? Personally, I don't expect we will see Edge unless he is just there to reiterate what he said last week, essentially that he doesn't know who he's going to challenge and he will be waiting until after the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view to say it. I think we will definitely see Bianca Belair in some capacity briefly. Again, only briefly. I think it's good to see them, but they don't want to overdo it and they don't want to do too much with them. So I think that is as much as we will see in that regard. That is everything I have for my preview, and it seems like it is everything in our comments. So this will be the wrap-up of our show now. Remember, at about 10 minutes before Raw, I will be going live on Twitch. If you follow it on Twitch, you will get a notification about this, and you will get a notification telling you we are doing a live Raw watch-along. That will not be on YouTube. So please remember to pop over to my Twitch, which, if people don't already have it, I will type it in. It is twitch.tv/Tom Colahue. So please remember to jump over there and follow if you want to join us for the watch along tonight. We will also tomorrow have gaming content. Tuesdays is Football Manager. Thank you, Corey, for dropping that one in as well. We will get Football Manager on Tuesdays, same time as this show. On Thursdays, we have Bloodborne, which is a gothic horror RPG. We will be adding an extra game to the collection soon, that being the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And in addition, at the weekends, once we go live completely on Twitch and drop the YouTube, we will be getting the midnight show, which will be midnight my time, so an hour before the Raw or SmackDown start time, wherever you may be. And that will be about world news rather than just wrestling. I hope to see you guys there. Let's have a look at the comments we've had. Corey says, I'll definitely be here tonight. It should be a good show. Absolutely. They're coming off of TakeOver. I'd imagine people will have something to prove on the red brand. But the WWE have also done really well with gauntlet matches. Just done really, really well. So I think that should be a lot of fun. And Ed says, hope to see everyone here tonight for the Helping Tom Stay Awake During Raw show. I yawn more than I should. I apologize for that. It's Raw finishes at 4 a.m. I get tired. I do apologize, but it is a wonderful way to connect with a rapidly growing community. When I first started showing up on Twitch, you wouldn't have seen the comments, but now if I click on this one, you've got the little Twitch icon just there next to my profile picture. So many people now are over on Twitch. We are growing there rapidly. It is no longer a point where there's one, maybe two people, and I spend a lot of time talking to myself. There are people there, and we are growing fast. It is a really positive, lively community, and I invite you all to check it out. Matt says, I don't know if WWE wants to have NXT and a TakeOver back-to-back nights, Mania weekend. I think this is one of the reasons Mania is going to be 2 nights. That's one of the reasons NXT TakeOver isn't there. They don't want to do too much. I think at the minute, they are doing too much because it's pay-per-view, 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 pay-per-view. But as Matt Hendricks says, Raw tires everyone out. Yeah. It says, don't apologize. We just need you to stay awake. Hell, I'd fall asleep at 4 a.m. watching Raw. I've been lucky. I've only done the one Raw watch-along so far, and it wasn't a bad show. If I'd have done that in the weeks previously, I may well have fallen asleep. But a big thank you to everyone who has joined me, everyone who's clicked like, everyone who has followed, everyone who we may be seeing later on tonight. Please do remember to join me for the watch along. And I just have to say thank you very much for watching. Have a good day, everyone.